No one noticed the house at first. That was the strangest part. It stood on Old Quarry Road, less than 12 miles from downtown Salem, Massachusetts, a town already burdened with ghosts, myths, and the weight of history. Yet this house, 3 stories tall, colonial structure, ash-gray clapboard siding, never appeared in tourist maps, paranormal blogs, or even county tax archives before 2009. It was as if it had always been there, and never at the same time. The first official mention of the house appeared in a single line of a Massachusetts State Police incident report dated October 14, 2009. Responded to disturbance call. Residence does not appear in registry. Occupant deceased. Cause unknown. That line would later become infamous. But before police, before historians, before the disappearances, there was Ethan Caldwell. Ethan moved to Salem for the same reason many Americans do when life collapses quietly: divorce, debt, and the promise of starting over somewhere that already felt haunted. At 38, Ethan was a historical data analyst, previously contracted by museums and universities to digitize colonial-era documents. His specialty was pattern anomalies, dates that didn't align, census data that contradicted itself, names that appeared too often or not at all. He believed history lied, not maliciously, just incrementally, the way memory does. So when he found a 3-bedroom colonial house listed online for 40% below market value, fully furnished, no background check, cash or short-term lease accepted, he didn't feel lucky. He felt observed. The listing had no photos of the interior, only one exterior shot. No address, just Old Quarry Road. The owner's message was brief. The house requires someone who listens. Ethan assumed it was eccentric phrasing. Salem thrived on that. He signed the lease 2 days later. The house smelled like old paper and iron. That was the first thing Ethan noticed when he stepped inside. Not mold, not dust, but the sharp metallic tang of aged ink, like libraries that had burned and been rebuilt too many times. The floors creaked, but inconsistently. Some steps were silent, others groaned like a tired throat. There were no mirrors anywhere on the first floor, no television, no internet wiring, but there was electricity, and oddly modern circuit breakers installed behind a wall panel carved with symbols Ethan immediately recognized. They weren't occult. They were colonial shorthand marks used by 17th century clerks to compress legal testimonies during witch trials. That should not have been possible. Ethan ran his fingers along the carvings, heart accelerating. "Someone's playing a very expensive joke," he muttered. But the joke deepened. In the study, an impossibly large room for a colonial house, there were shelves, hundreds of them, all empty, except for one desk. And on that desk, a leather-bound ledger. No title, no author, just a date pressed into the cover. 1692. Ethan didn't open the ledger that night. Instead, he unpacked, slept badly, and dreamed of voices speaking English that had not yet settled on its grammar. He woke at 3:17 a.m. every night, always to the sound of pages turning somewhere in the house. 3 days later, curiosity overcame caution. Ethan opened the ledger. The handwriting was meticulous, looping, painfully deliberate. It was not a diary. It was a record of testimonies, names Ethan recognized immediately: Abigail Williams, Reverend Samuel Parris, Bridget Bishop, but then names he did not recognize, names that did not appear in any official Salem witch trial records. Dozens of them, hundreds. Each entry followed the same structure: name, date of observation, manifestation, outcome. Some outcomes were marked exiled, silenced, reintegrated, and some simply read retained. Ethan's academic instincts ignited. If this ledger was authentic, or even an elaborate forgery, it could rewrite historical understanding of Salem entirely. He scanned the first few pages. That was when he saw his own name. Caldwell, Ethan. Observation date, pending. Manifestation, uncatalogued. Outcome, undetermined. The ink was still wet.